If you are a woman who is in the middle of a separation or a break with your partner, where it's been such a happy relationship, but suddenly you realize things just weren't going right and you've split, and you have tried EMDR, therapy, subconscious work, you are really deep in your process, and you've literally got to a point where you just can't see your blind spot. You don't know what's coming up in your system, but you know you're disconnected from your feminine. You know you were leading in the relationship. You know you were dissatisfied with how the relationship container felt. And you're at a point where you just are longing for a breakthrough where you are effortless, you're in your flow, you're confident, and most importantly, that you have clarity on navigating your relationship with confidence and that you're in your full power. I really want to invite you to listen in to this beautiful client call that I'm about to have. My beautiful soul sister Lydia, who's going to be joining us today, literally started SEM at this point. And when she arrived, she said the biggest thing she wants to do is come back into her full power and to have clarity on how to navigate her relationship. And she really just needed someone to help her shift past these blockages that were storing in her system, of which she didn't know where they were or what they were or how to move them. And so today I'm very excited because we're going to walk you through her process of where she started, also where she is now in the process, and how she's actually gotten into an embodied, open, feminine state in her life. So stay tuned. Okay, my darling loves, I am very excited to be introducing our beautiful Lydia to the call. Babe, for real though, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you are, what got you here.
So I'm Lydia. I'm 30 now, which in itself was quite a big journey this year. And actually, I moved into this portal having literally just turned 30, which I felt was such a profound kind of aligned thing in itself. And I'm based in the UK. I'm based in Brighton. And, you know, before I even sort of talk about what brought me to SEM, I think the biggest thing and something that has made me trust so much just in like the power of just like the universe and my soul and just everything going on and like the girls and the sisters around me is I could not tell you the amount of times people have asked me how I started SEM and I'm like I don't know. Because the alignment just it was literally one of those things that like fell into my lap. um and on a practical note, you know, I could probably think, oh well, maybe it was, you know, seeing them on Instagram, or maybe it was something to do with content, but I can never answer that question. And for me, I think that was something which made me realize how much of a call this was for my soul and myself to move into. um yeah, so it's sort of, that was a really, really, to look back and kind of have answered that call, just feels great. It's, yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, baby, like, also like from my side, it's so wild the sisters who do join in. I always like I tell you girls all the time, like I walk and pray, and I really believe like with 8 billion people here on this planet, like the synchronicities are so vital. And I also think it's amazing for other girls who listen because I personally do my whole work for that, like the miraculous synchronicity of souls and sisters who are ready to like step into that space. So every time I hear your story, I'm like, it's real. But let's rewind back in time a little bit. Where were you before you began SEM? Like, what was happening in your life, like with your body, relationships, emotional, mental state? Where were you kind of at?
So I think I was in a really interesting space actually, because I think personally I've experienced quite a lot of profound grief and trauma over probably the past 10, 15 years of my life. And so I'd really lent into sort of like therapy and like EMDR and you know, a lot of healing spaces and things. But I was met with quite a difficult situation this year and navigating new waters in terms of my long-term relationship, and that shifting into something different and not quite knowing what that looks like or will look like, and along with another unfortunate layer of grief added into the mix. And I think for the first time ever, I couldn't think through it. I couldn't navigate through it in a way that, you know, cognitively was going to help me step out of this real well that I was sat in. And I think I was kind of sat in this well of difficulty and emotion and chaos and kind of desperation of not thinking I would ever end up in this space that I was in. And I think also, having mentioned earlier about, you know, turning 30 as well, I think that shift into kind of this new decade as well, and being almost on the other side of expectation of life and on that other side of everything I probably assumed life to be and everything we know it to be, and then just feeling like the kind of layers of everything I knew that I needed to strip away be exposed whilst being sat in that well, almost like having like the light literally shining down on me going, none of this is yours anymore. And for the first time in my life, I just remember being like, I don't know what to do here. And I think for many, many years, I was able to navigate or probably manipulate or grip on or try and kind of craft and edit and force my way through figuring situations out. And I would have always said I was very comfortable facing all of my emotions, and I was very open and real and raw about talking about all of those traumas or talking about the kind of shadow self, but I never felt them. I never actually embodied any of it. So actually looking back, I almost felt like I didn't have a body. I almost felt like a kind of brain in a jar,
Mm.
because that was my whole existence. And I think I just got to a point where I opened myself up within that process of just real raw ripping everything apart. And I had nothing but surrender, because I had no choice in that. And then in that instance, this then landed in my field. And I think for the first time, probably since before a lot of my trauma happened, when I would say, if someone asked me when I last felt really connected to myself, it would have been then, sort of 17, 18, 19. For the first time, I felt a call like I did back in those days. And it was just, yeah, to speak to you and to figure the details out, and to not let, you know, my masculine be like, oh, but can we afford it, to just make it work. And yeah, so that's kind of been my journey into moving into the space.
Crazy. And also so wild, like the timing and the synchronicity of like where things came in, because you were really at that big precipice, like coming into a very unknown space with your partner, finding like all of your stuff. And I think what you said is so profound, and I think a lot of us struggle with it. Like I also was like in psychology, and you can so easily like talk therapy process and analyze this and move through this thing, but then like you're not actually letting it happen through the body, and these patterns just repeat, and your life suddenly becomes this mirror of like, holy shit, it's all blown up, and I'm kind of like standing here in the Hiroshima of it, trying to figure my shit out. Crazy, wild. Speak to me a little bit about where you are now. Like, what has changed? What shifted? How are you feeling? Talk us through your journey presently.
Well, you can tell I'm like a giggly little girl today. I think the first thing to note is I have never felt so present in a timeline is how it feels. And I was trying to ironically think into that. I was trying to feel into that the other day about what that really feels like. And it just, to me, is like the ultimate presence of having like landed into my world and my existence. And I think that's through feeling so connected to my body. I literally had a call with one of my sisters earlier, and we actually ironically got onto this whole topic of my journey this year. And you know, the not only are the people seeing how profoundly I've shifted, but even the way I can kind of feel really safe in seeing and holding all of the different parts of myself that I probably would have either tried to put aside before or outsourced to other people to see and validate. And I think just even the messy kind of bits that we shy away from, especially in our feminine expression and the assumption of what that kind of looks like. I think for me, I just feel so safe in holding myself in my entirety, and like knowing that no matter what happens, you know, every single thing outside of myself is just an addition. And actually the pure potency and kind of love and relationship and strength and, you know, cuteness and little things that make me happy all will primarily start from me and come from me. And I want that as well. I want that to come from me as an initial piece, which I think before I probably was naturally trying to outsource a lot of things. And I think I probably built the assumption that if you're single, fine, you do that for yourself. But if you're in a relationship, no, that's not what happens. And actually, I really just feel like I've stepped into such a different level of power of myself. And even the way I kind of speak is clearer and sort of more precise and aware, almost like I've got this higher kind of knowing of what I really want to say. It's like my voice is sort of purified. And I think I had an incredibly blocked chakra in my throat before. And I can recognize that. And actually, I have so many tools and things now where I go into my body and I meet it in all of its messiness and chaos and everything. Like literally this morning, I had my sort of inner immature feminine pop up, and she was like, "I just want to have a temper tantrum." And I was like, "Okay." So I just like got on my bed. I was just banging my fists, you know, and then I just got about my day. I was like,
Woman,
great. I was like,
yes.
this is wonderful. I was like, have a little strop, do it. And, you know, just seeing, I think for me, this space, again, I can't even say how aligned it's been, because I literally could not imagine my life having gone any other way but stepping into this portal. And I think it's almost like everything that needed to fall off has fallen off. But it's kind of like every fragment and every part of myself that has ever gone anywhere else has just completely come back into me. And I just feel, I don't know, I imagine almost like in Marvel with all the crystals, when you sort of have like your power stone or your time stone or something, and they're in their purest form of just in like abundance and power. And it feels like my stone, my soul stone, has almost just pulled everything back in and it's fully like integrated. And I just feel on like another level in a space that I don't think I ever thought I could actually step into. And it impacts every single part of my life and my days, and just my peace and kind of ability to just be in it, just be in this thing we call life. So yeah.
But also so wild. I'm like, this is the best ever. Preach to the choir. But like, especially from where you were, it was like, I'm literally a brain in a jar and I'm trying to like figure things out, to having that cosmic experience of feeling not just your soul, but like elevating and consciously co-creating on timelines through your body. And I always share with them, and like these experiences you can't make up and you really can hardly even verbalize because it's such a felt movement where everything in your life is like it just shifts. You get it, you see it, you align it, you're in your potency. And so many of us women just have never been there. I was there too. I was like, I just had never known it. And then when you get it, it's like everything, your voice, your God, wild. Curious to know if you have anything that comes to mind, like just inside the journey itself in SEM. What do you think like the main things were that really helped you get into this space from being like more blocked, more in your control, more in your masculine, into this very integrated, we call it integrated self, but this very integrated space?
I think there's a few elements. I think the first element is the actual, saying from a masculine, the more practical safety that the space creates. I think the sisterhood of having not that many people within a group is really impactful, because I think it makes you feel incredibly held and seen in your own journeys. But I also think the mix of the sort of psychological underpinning, but the practicalities of weekly self work and exercises and things that you can easily attach to, I think, made it feel like it wasn't this huge thing that I had to try and change everything about me, kind of thing. And what I mean by that is, I've worked with coaches before where it's felt like such an arduous task doing things and integrating things and, doing the journey, and it's not felt authentic, and it's felt like I'm forcing something, and I have to wake up and do X, Y, and Z, and it's not felt true for me. And I think in this space, the kind of work you're doing, because it's so much of searching within yourself and kind of making the self work your own, it's really more of a place of tools to return back to yourself. It's not a tool of trying to achieve something or trying to attain something or trying to, you know, get a certain specific answer. It's almost like a curious, like, excavation, like one of those little kind of history digs you do with the sand and the fossils and stuff. It's like, it's fun, it's curious, it instantly, I mean, I remember even in week one where we were just talking about setting up our daily routines with like a bit of soft touch and mirror gazing and maybe some shaking and things like that. And I don't think, firstly, I've done it every single day, which astounds me, because for me, it's like something I've really struggled with in the past, of keeping up with the work kind of thing, if it's
I
set for
remember you
me.
saying that. You're like, what if I can't do
I'm
it?
like, oh God.
Feel into your body. Let
It's like,
her.
oh no, exactly. But I think it's more, it just felt like a soft landing space. And I think, especially with as a coach, I think you are someone who makes people feel so safe in whatever experience they're having. And I think probably for the first time, a lot of women sitting in these spaces, I know for me especially, they start to realize that they've maybe not seen parts of themselves and held parts of themselves in safety because we feel shame or embarrassment, or, I know I definitely have experienced maybe probably feeling too much, and, all those sticky things that come into it. And I think something which I profoundly have seen in this space is absolutely no judgment from any corner, from anyone. And, feeling like you can really safely land in that exploration of, those trickier weeks when maybe you're looking into your shadow work, or you're trying to de-armor your body in a way, and it's something which maybe feels really unsafe. And I think especially having a lot of triggers in my body, actually, from stored trauma, um, that felt so profound, because I think it was the first place that I, with a coach, felt fully seen and held for the journey I was actually in, and not this kind of results driven XYZ, you do this and you'll get here kind of thing. It felt like it was amenable and movable and kind of flowing through all of us who were in the cohort as well, which I think is incredible.
I think also what you share there is so poignant and so important because a lot of women, like, we've gone through stuff. We've gone through trauma. We're probably in the middle of a breakup or a separation or something that's like, oh my God. And then we have this, I call it like a really divine space and time, a juncture point from God where we can go in and to navigate that and to move that through the body is then what brings us this newness of life, this understanding, this confidence, this, but it's so important to have that space fostered and to be able to know you're safe in that space, but also you know how to go through that space. And yeah, I'm really curious to know actually like how things have been in your body because I know you went through a fair amount of trauma in the past, and I know we resonated on like parts of our stories and we're like, oh, how did you find going into like the embodiment aspect of it with like releasing those parts? How's that been showing up for you?
I think the thing that sort of showed up the most, but also was quite, I guess, surprising, but also not surprising at the same time. But I think for me, it was the lack of sensation.
Mm.
It was sort of assuming my body was optimum and connected because I've always been someone who, believes in mind body connection. I think it's really important. And, I've never actively dismissed my body sort of, so to speak. So I think that really surprised me because, it's that kind of thing if you don't know what you don't know. And like even really silly things like I know there's a part in SEM which we talk about like limiting beliefs and stuff. And even really think silly things where I'm like, well, I've done therapy. I know all of these things. Like I've got this. Like, yeah, okay, let me just get my library out like of all the things that I know. But then there's something that comes through that is so in your blind spot that you're like, wait, whoa, I've like masked this in a certain way. Or if, for me, it was spinning it into a positive. So even I thought that it was a great thing. Like, and I think that was really a similar situation in my body that, especially for like my yoni and my, just my sensations. And I think just even feeling my body again, it was like that kind of head in a jar sort of thing. But I think for me it was sort of when those really sticky things came up and came through, although there was a part of my brain screaming going, I don't like this is horrible, it was suddenly, instead of going, okay, well, we won't do it then, it was going, okay, I see you, you're showing up here, but I'm also going to do this. And I think it's allowed me to really like feel into where things are showing up in my body and where I've never felt anything before in my body as well. Like even the practice of sort of, I've been doing a lot of dry body brushing, which is part of my morning routine of that soft touch and really integrating back into sort of sense. And just that practice alone suddenly made me like, oh my goodness, well, that's what it's like to feel my toes, or that's what it's like to feel my thighs, or oh my gosh, that's what it's like to actually remember I have a body. And I think in terms of those deeper, harder experiences, I know I was really scared. I remember when I first stepped into this space, I was really worried. I was really scared about how they might show up, especially because I think in other forms of therapy, which aren't somatically focused in a way, they do re-trigger you and it does cause quite a lot of impact and it is really hard. And I was so worried about being re-triggered and being thrown back into a place I couldn't get out of. But I think the way that the portal's structured and the way that you build into those pieces as well, as soon as I landed into those practices, I felt so safe to do it. And so even if it was, for example, a week where we were looking at de-armoring that trauma, I just knew that I had myself, and I knew that there was an other side. I knew that I was just going to move through this and then I'd come out to the other side of it in a different way. And that didn't mean that each week that those really sticky parts didn't take quite a lot of looking at. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's allowing yourself to move through the space, and all of the chaos and fear and kind of triggers and all the kind of, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. This is terrifying. My life's going to end. It's like letting yourself be seen in that and know that, that's okay if you feel that way. And after it's like, oh, you silly little thing, that's fine now. You realize it's not actually that scary. But I think it was just the real softness of patience as well. And I think this is something I always remember you speaking about, with the slowness and patience of the feminine. And I think it was just really about slowing down and really moving very, very slowly into those spaces in my body and just sitting with it, not even trying to see how it felt, not even trying to do the cognitive thing of, is it moving? What does it feel like literally just experiencing it, and then maybe bringing in other sort of practices. But yeah, I think for the first time ever, especially reflecting on this process, I don't think there's been times where, if I have been triggered, they have dragged me back into this other place, which I don't think or feel like I could have got out of before.
So potent. And also, like, for the healing journey, I think we often forget how much trauma in the body can literally take us down, especially as women, and it shows up in so many different ways in our life. And to find spaces and ways to navigate through it where you're actually then okay. And like the other side is like, oh, I'm proud of myself, or I feel juicy, or I felt a lot, or I'm like, it literally rewires how we do our whole lives. And we move from like a pain body based living to a pleasure body based living, where we are then able to actually move through depths, but no, we can come out the other side and feel proud, empowered, amazed, whatever it is. But it's not just like, I went into this and now I'm just triggered in a trauma response for X, Y, and Z amount of time, which to me, especially if people have gone through big traumas, myself included, I had to move through that somehow, but I was so scared to like, oh. So yeah, I think just hearing your journey as well is so impactful, because I feel like this is where we find our freedom as women. This is where we find our bliss, because we know our strength and our capacity as well. Couple This question I have. I know you've gone through your whole journey and you're coming through the final side. We're not fully done, but you're like coming to the edge. But was there anything at the beginning that nearly stopped you from joining?
My masculine thinking about money, probably. Definitely. I was like, oh God, this is a big piece, this is a big investment. And sort of, I mean, there was a couple of things. I'll speak to that one first. But I've always been someone who thinks it's imperative to invest in yourself. I really truly do. But I think it was actually really interesting for me to move through that experience of really just trusting what I was being called into, and knowing and trusting that, the energy of money comes and goes anyway. And actually, this is not something I can even put a price to. But also, I think it was more the thing of, it opened me up to understand actually some of my limiting beliefs around my capacity to receive. And that was fascinating, because obviously that speaks to so much of my journey with my feminine. And I was someone, I would say, who was so in my masculine, but probably in a way that almost was like sneaky to me, because I'm like, well, no, I'm feminine in these ways. And like, I totally receive, and I'm totally soft, and I love to just like speak through what I mean. And but it was still cerebral and cognitive, so it was still a kind of curated version, probably. And so for me, looking back, and that kind of blocker, that coming up in itself allowed me to then expand into this space of understanding. I think also the other thing that probably blocked me at the start and made me sort of uncertain was my experience with coaches before, and sort of this idea, like I was speaking about, of it's much more of a right, you do X, Y, and Z, and then you try and get here. And especially knowing in that time before I joined SEM that I was raw and very, very vulnerable and very exposed. And I think for me, it was a bit of fear of, am I just trying to latch onto something because I'm in pain and I'm feeling like I'm just trying to fix things quickly? And also, is this going to harm me because of the way I've experienced previous coaching, which again, you know, different fields of things, definitely was helpful in its own right. But I think I was worried that the space would be something that took more from me than maybe I needed, I think. And I think also you'll remember this well, but obviously we were talking about what's like involved in some of the pillars, and I remember you brought up cord cutting, and I was just like, no, I was like, I cannot do this. This is terrible. And oh my God, I just was in like an absolute panic, and like this panic of thinking I'd have to do it at some point and I had no choice. And it would be like this ritualistic, you know, circle of all of us just cord cutting. And I think I probably also worried about, because I'm Eileen, obviously I'm an obliger, so for me I do try and meet a lot of external expectations and sometimes find it harder to meet my own inner expectations, which for anyone watching you'll land into that. But I think for me it was also worrying that I was maybe just doing it because I was being told to do it, kind of thing. And you know, I was trying to discern whether I was feeling pressured to do it because it was, you know, something I'd found and inquired about, or actually whether it was a call for me. But I cannot say enough how happy, and I mean, I don't have the words for it. Like I am so thankful, speaking from that version of me 3 months ago to the version of me now, which is her higher self of that version. I am so proud that I just, you know, jumped off the cliff, all caution to the wind, and just listened to my call, because now I sit here as a higher version of that version of me. And I'm like, gosh, that was fun, wasn't it? Really enjoyed that. That was great.
Yeah. Also crazy and so good that you like point out different factors, because I think a lot of women, like at the beginning, it's always like I sit on the other side and I'll say it. I'm like, I've been on the other side of the call. Like I know that feeling, but it's so important because I think it validates a lot of fears and they're so relevant, right? Like finances is a big one. Like for all of us, it's such a fucking initiation into ourself, into believing in things, into faith, into trusting for abundance. And it's such a big thing to shift. And equally then finding your own voice and your own inner truth inside a container. And I think that's such a major healing place for our feminine, is like, am I just going to do because I have to, or do I get to find myself and actually guide, but set boundaries and formulate that higher self inside you? So, yeah, like the fears always send the faith afterwards. But I think if anyone else is listening, like it's so beautifully put, and your journey then through it to where you are now, you know. What do you think made you actually take the leap and just do it?
Ooh. I think I just stopped, and I mean, I think you were a massive factor for sure. I just got this kind of knowing energy. I remember saying, and I think for anyone watching, if they're unsure, if maybe they lean more to be an obliger and they feel like they have to meet expectations, feel into how you feel in that initial call with them. because I think when we first spoke and you were just talking me through like what it would be, and you know, we were discussing the pillars and everything. Okay, yes, we had the masculine factual, great, tick, tick, tick. But I just, it's like I knew you. And I think because of that, that was probably the first time I felt like my feminine going, oh no, we're doing this. Like, I, I think it was that. It was reflecting on feeling grounded and safe and curious, I think, as well, because I think when I led into that curiosity, and I've heard you say this before beautifully about even just, you know, even if you're the slightest bit interested or curious, I think you have to honor yourself in that and kind of just sit and think into it a little bit. And so I think for me, that was definitely one side of it. But I think the other side was I look back actually on a lot of kind of pivotal moments in my life where I've made decisions that have been just profound for me. And I've just jumped because I've just known. I've had a deeper knowing, and there's been an element of me going, I don't know what else to do. I'm going to let myself jump and try and land safely here because I have no other answers. And I think it's probably trusting that I've jumped and landed before. But I think also it was this real deep knowing of what else do I do? Like, what else should I do? It's almost like I had this beautiful time frame in this period of my life, which almost was like set to the date, to the T of like 3 months, you know, which is crazy. And I think for me, it was also on a more practical level, it was the illustration of the embodied practices. I think it was the illustration of the more somatic stuff, which I knew I had never really lent into. And I think for me, I was like, right, well, I've always tried to do it through my thinking, and it's got me so far, but it's only got me so far. And so I think it was that, okay, this could really, really do something for me here. And so, yeah, I was like, I'm doing it, Em, I'm going for it.
I remember getting the message and being like, oh, yes, baby, I'm rooting for you. But also so beautiful to hear like the different dimensions of what actually lands a soul and then a woman into the space and into her journey, because it is multi-layered. And I think that's the most profound part, is when you start to see like all of these elements, like there's a soul connection. And that to me is so freaking important in a world of like AI and loads of this, like they're souls, right? Like we're real, like beings of light that like attract to each other, and there's a connection on that aspect. Also, windows of time, and I often share this with other women too. And when we first had the call, I know God, life gives us windows in our lives for a transformation. I learned that in my own journey. And when you feel like a connection, and then there's the window, and then you start to feel a resonance in your own soul, like, I've tried these things, I've tried to do this, it's got me so far, but I'm actually just at the cliff. It's that combination that just creates the space. And it's so beautiful how you've articulated it too, because I think women who do join, my prayer is that they have all three of those components, because it makes such an embodied quantum leap to then like go all in. My last question, not so much question, but something I always love to invite you into is maybe even close down eyes. I always think closing down eyes helps. And feel into your body. I want you to imagine that there is another woman who is watching this, and she's looking at our screen right now. What would you want to say to her if she was on the fence of her journey? What would you share with her?
I love that question. Um, Answer your own call. I think it's so easy to feel the noise and the fears and the weight of whatever's happening for you in your existence in the current time. And I think and feel that most women who step into this space have come to that edge in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's such a profound space, to the point where I don't even feel like I've done any work. I'm just here because it's been such an experience. And like, it's like a lazy river. It's felt like I've hopped in my little rubber ring and I've just been going down this lazy river, and everything it's brought me has just been like nothing I could ever describe. And I think if you're there thinking and wondering, it's softening into actually that pull and trusting that pull that you're feeling, that it is that safe place to land, and also that it is the exactly aligned perfect time for you as an individual. Because I cannot even say the amount of times I've messaged you being like, oh my god, another alignment, oh my god, another thing, like absolutely crazy, just all the pieces of our fabric and tapestry of our lives are so similar. It's wild. And I think just hear the call and trust it. And I I also think it's okay to feel that fear and whatever those sticky things are moving into it at first. You know, I look at where I was in week one and now sort of nearly at the end of this container, and I probably was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure how to move into this, and trying to sit in my thinking probably more. And so I also would say, don't worry about that duality of having those two in existence. I think it's loving yourself so much that you let these things fall into place. And I think for me, it would be saying to you, if you're finally at the point where you want these layers that are built on top of you to fall away, the ones that are meant to stay there will stay there, the ones that aren't won't. And it's an easier process than you think. But I think if you're really feeling like you can't discern what's you and what's not anymore, and you're feeling called into something bigger, just love yourself so much into that, and love yourself so much that you open up yourself and just take that step. Because honestly, regardless of what area of your life you might have felt the call of this from, it it is intertwined and woven in the fabric of every cell of my body now, and every cell of my timeline and being. And it's I've never felt the feeling of love in such potency as I have now. And I think I see you in that darkness, and I see you so much in that depth of pain and chaos and not knowing and grief. And I really see you, and I love you in that so much. And I want you to know that you can be held by a higher, deeper, more loving, more safe space of a container, by your highest self, than you ever realize. And I think you don't know what you don't know. So you might as well go for it, because I'm here. So
But yes, it's like, what are we doing in this world if we're not actually going into these spaces? And I couldn't have asked for something more beautiful. And if you are listening to this, please take these words so deeply to your heart, because it is what we don't know, we don't know. And there are portals and timelines that are waiting for us. And I'm so grateful, Liz, you took that leap and went through your process and had the whole journey, and also that you're here now, and the way that you're shining your lights to me is what it's all about, right? Like, we get to just be a light in our lives, in our love, in our truth, in our power, and then it's just this like so yeah, my love. Are there any last words you would like to say or share before we close up this portal?
I don't think so, no. I think the only thing I would lastly share is if if you could see the human I was, the soul, the fragment of the soul I was before these 3 months. And I was someone who was probably a little bit skeptical, to be honest with you. I think I did probably think, oh well, how much can you actually do? So I think if you could have seen me in that fraction of my soul essence to now, I will just share that people in my life have said it's been an honor to witness my transformation over the past 3 months. And this has been probably the one of the hardest, if not the hardest years of my life so far. I mean, hopefully not too many awful ones more, but I'll be good. But I think to have people witness and share that they are so profoundly in awe of this and of where I am now and the power and light and presence and grounding that I hold. It's like they've seen me come back to life, but in a life that they didn't even know existed within me. And I think for whoever's listening or watching this, know that that's possible for you as well. And it's, I would say, part of your soul's assignment to be in this space, because I know the lessons that I have learned of myself in this space and the realizations and the kind of light bulb moments of, oh my gosh, that's part of what the universe is asking of me now. I can now trust the lessons within my human experience and know them for what they actually are, more than just what I think or assume they are to be. So I am changed forever, for sure. And in the beautiful words of Wicket Part 2, I'm changed for good. So
Yes. But wow, babe. Yeah, I think it really hits home when people around us see that light too. And I know you shared that the other day, and I literally had tears because, like, I remember my path having that experience too. And it's just like, oh my God, it really does get to happen. And then you see it happening with other people, and it's like, there are methods. There are methods for this. Like, this happens and we come alive. So yeah, baby, thank you for sharing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the space. It's been such an honor. And I love you. And I'm so, like, so many words, all honored, just inspired to have been with you in this path. Really, truly. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
thank you.
Okay, my darling, let me pulls us out for the girls who are watching. We love you. If you feel a tingle or pull, there's always a link. Book it in. Let's connect.